Alright, so in case you guys haven't heard, Twitter kind of blew up this weekend when the official Halo Twitter account decided to put out this tweet right here, stating that Halo Infinite is going to have a free-to-play multiplayer. So in this video here, we're going to go over some of the good, some of the bad, and some of the downright ugly that we don't want to see out of it. We still don't know much besides the fact that it's going to be free to play, but we're going to get out some of the opinions and things that we do not want to see. Halo is for everyone. We can confirm Halo Infinite Multiplayer will be free to play and support 120 frames per second on Xbox Series X. More details will be shared later. Alright, so in this tweet, first of all, we just have confirmation now that Halo Multiplayer will be a free-to-play model. For those of you who might not know, that means that the campaign will be sold separately and the multiplayer will be free for everybody to just download and play at your will. That has its advantages and it has its disadvantages that we're going to get into later in this video. But let's go over one quick detail that they had in this tweet about the multiplayer being confirmed to be 120 frames per second on Xbox Series X. Now that is a large claim right there. 120 frames per second. That would be amazing for the Xbox Series X to be able to achieve those frames per second. But that may also be contributed to why the graphics looked a little bit downgraded in this build that they just showed. Maybe because they were working more on getting Halo to run at a higher frame rate than they were the graphical fidelity of it. That could be a possibility. Not sure. But yeah, they're claiming that Halo is going to be up to 120 frames per second on the Xbox Series X. And that takes us to this Halo Waypoint blog post. We heard 4K 60 frames per second. Is that the best you can do even on PC? And the response was, to clarify, up to 4K 60 frames per second is our target for our expansive campaign experience on Series X. As PC players expect, there will be plenty of settings that you can tweak to create the experience you want, and we'll have even more details on that in the coming months. So as you can see, they are targeting 4K 60 frames per second for the Series X, but there will be plenty of tweaks that you can make on a PC to try to get a higher frame rate out of it. They are confirming that. They are putting in plenty of settings that will allow us to tweak our game further on PC, which is par for the course. Every game has that on PC anyways. But now that we are confirmed that the Halo multiplayer will be free to play, let's get into some things that we have to say about that. And let's start with a couple of the good things. To be honest, I couldn't really think of much good to come out of the free-to-play besides these two. If anybody has any other ideas as to why this free-to-play model is potentially a good thing, leave it in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your opinions, but this is what I came up with, and let's get into it. Good? Well, it's free-to-play. It's not going to cost you any money to play Halo multiplayer at all. You don't have to buy the campaign. You don't have to buy the game. It's going to be available to be downloaded by everybody. That means you can save your money for the potential battle pass system that they're going to cram into it, or the microtransactions that they're going to have crammed into it. And I've seen some of the arguments that people are saying 343 has confirmed no microtransactions, but they did not confirm no microtransactions. They confirmed no loot boxes, and loot boxes are not the same as microtransactions. In general, they are only a part of it. If they say there are 0 microtransactions in these games, we confirm that, then you can say that there will be no microtransactions in this game. As of right now, we know there's no loot boxes in this game, not microtransactions as a whole. But that is the one positive I can think of. You'll be able to download Halo multiplayer for free on PC or Xbox Game Pass or on just the Microsoft Store, I imagine, for the Xbox Series X. All right, so let's get into the one other thing that I thought that was a good thing to come out of this. And that is the fact that due to the fact that it's free to play, given that the multiplayer is solid and quality and people do enjoy it, it will create longevity for the multiplayer. It will be free. It will have a large population, given that it's good. And that will create longevity for this multiplayer. And there's also one more reason that I could think of that this is a good thing for Halo. And that's the fact that there would be more ways to expand on the multiplayer without it being tied into the purchase of the campaign. So therefore, campaign's going to be one price. you're going to be buying that. You'll be buying expansions for that separately. The multiplayer is going to be its whole separate entity, so therefore they can do what they want with that. If it's free, they can charge totally separately for that and not have to worry about what's going to be coming in the multiplayer as a full package with the campaign. That's what I gather from that. And them are the top 3 positives that I can think of for Halo Infinite going free to play. Now let's get into some of the bad, because this is going to be the second Halo video that I've done in a row with quite a bit amount of negativity in it. And I'm going to have a positive video coming out next week that is going to go over a breakdown piece by piece of the trailers and the gameplay that we do have. We're going to go over almost all the things that we do know to this date about weapons and things that we pick out in the background and other things that are going on that you wouldn't just notice from watching it straight through. But back into this video, where we're going to get into some of the bad of the free-to-play. And that is the fact that every month or two, you're going to be pouring money into the Halo multiplayer. So most likely with a free-to-play model, anybody who's going to try to say that this game's just going to come out, be free-to-play, there's going to be no microtransactions, is completely fooling themselves and needs to rethink their life. Because the fact that if you think that 343 and Microsoft is going to come out with a multiplayer and say, here you go, it's free, no microtransactions, we're not going to charge you anything, just go play to your heart's desire, you are fooling yourself, because they're going to have a battle pass system that is 100%. Or something akin to that. They're going to need to make money off of this. That is the whole point. That's the whole point of the free-to-play business model, is to make money in other ways than just straight up charging for it and having everything as one package deal. They're going to sell you everything separately in bite-sized bits or in seasons, which I'm not a big fan of, because then seasons get old. That content goes away. Sometimes they don't bring it back. Usually they're on a timer. Play this game this much in 2 months, or you're not going to get this stuff. It's kind of, I don't care for the model that much. Them are just some parts of it. But yeah, you'll be dumping money into this every couple months for every new season that comes out to keep it fresh and to keep the content coming your way with progression and unlocks. That is the one bad that I do have to say about this business model. And we're going to get into some of the ugly right now, because these are the things that I really just despise about it. And starting with that is this model creates the feeling for the developers to constantly have to pump out all this cheap, lame, pathetic content just to make content, because you have to sell it in seasons or passes, or you have to have unlocks in tiers. All the free-to-play business model that the multiplayers have, they have the cheapest, lame content that you're going to be buying and having to unlock through time, and it just cheapens the multiplayer experience as a whole. Some people would rather just outright buy the multiplayer as a whole and unlock it as they go, as they want, on their own free will, not being locked into having to play in a certain amount of time before that content goes away, even when you purchase the battle pass. And that is one really bad thing that turns out into this business model. I'm not a fan of being forced to play in a certain amount of time, especially when you purchase something. When you purchase something, you should have the rights to it, not the right to unlock it. And that's one huge problem I find with this business model. It feels like it cheapens the whole entire experience, and I'm sure many other players will agree with me on that. And the one other thing that I wanted to talk about with the ugly of this is turning the multiplayer into something completely unrecognizable over time due to just constantly pumping out content, like I was saying before. The next thing you know, there's going to be elites running around with pulsating hearts and rainbows coming out of energy swords, and there's going to be battle rifles that are going to have neon pink stripes down it, and all this other crazy stuff that really just cheapens the atmosphere of the multiplayer and the game, completely breaks immersion, takes you straight out of the experience, all for the sake of having to pump out content for season passes and battle passes and having to sell you something. That is a really bad business model, and that is one of the top reasons why I cannot stand it. But in my personal opinion, I think the negatives far outweigh the positives of being free-to-play multiplayer. I would rather have it come as a package like it did in past games, stuff that we were used to, without the rec packs and all the other stuff too that cheapen it. I understand they need to make money. To be honest, I would rather... I don't know. This game is a very hard game to monetize because people want to unlock their armor as they go with their own progression without having to purchase it in a battle pass form. Just buy a game, unlock it as you go. But people don't want to be missing out on content of having it being sold into them. So, say $20 for an entire skin set or something like that. That might be too much, and that begs the question too: that are they going to be stuffing armor into this? Because if it was just small things like badges, sprays, or other things like that, people I'm sure would be probably okay with that. But when you start getting into like armor customization or say energy sword skins, like I said, or whatever else they're going to sell, then they're going to be putting important things that players really want stuffed into all these battle passes that you're going to have to unlock tiers. And who's to say you're going to be able to play this game enough in the next 2 months of this battle pass in order to unlock it? There's no guarantee. So you could be purchasing things that you're not even going to get. You're just purchasing the chance to be able to get it. And that is the main problem with this business model. I know there's some people out there that like the fact that it's free to play because, well, it's free. They don't have to buy the game. But one other ugly that I really want to bring up about the free to play business model is using Call of Duty Warzone as an example. Call of Duty is having such a bad problem with hackers and cheaters. It's not even funny. They got to the point where the Infinity Ward developers recently were begging cheaters to stop cheating in the game because they just can't stop it. It's rampant. With this game being free to play, it's going to just be open game for cheaters and hackers to come in. And we all know that Halo has been one game in the past that has been a big battleground for cheaters and hackers. It's always been one of them games that people have always wanted to cheat or hack. And being free to play with such a big population, I feel like it's going to be open game for the hackers. And I know a lot of other people do. And we'll see how well they do combat that in this game, because no doubt it's going to be there. But with the business model going free to play, it could possibly make it 10 times worse. And we already have that set for an example in front of us with Call of Duty. But that's going to be all for the good and the bad and the ugly. Let's get into a couple questions that come to mind when thinking of Halo going to a free-to-play multiplayer business model. What will the campaign cost? Now that the Halo campaign is going to be sold separately from the multiplayer, how much are they going to charge us for the campaign? Is this going to be a $40 campaign sold on the side? Or is it going to be this big, massive multiplayer that they're going to update for free with expansions and things like that, all for a price tag of $60? Because now that you're not getting the multiplayer in with the campaign experience, that would, by all rights, call for a drop in price. But let's see with Next Gen coming out now, if they're going to try to sell the campaign for that lone $60, do the free-to-play business model with their multiplayer, still get that $60 out of the campaign while still making more money on the multiplayer, because we know devs are trying to get more money out of games recently. We know that by the NBA 2K coming out, supposedly selling for $70 from the start. We'll see if 343 and Microsoft is going to try to get that full $60 out of the campaign, along with a free-to-play multiplayer that you can still have to buy extra stuff for. We're going to see. That's one of the questions that I definitely have on my mind as of right now. And one more question that I have about this. This begs the question for me to ask if all next-gen games are going to be going to a free-to-play multiplayer business model, because we've heard with Xbox possibly getting rid of the Xbox Live Gold and going to the Xbox Game Pass model for the future moving forward. Will that be contributing to most other games having to go free to play on the platform, since there is going to be no more having to pay for Xbox Live Gold, because mainly paying for Xbox Live Gold was paying for multiplayer access, because you could not play multiplayer without it. So will that mean that next generation all games are going to be going free to play, and Halo is just one to get ahead of the game by announcing that it is free to play? That is one other question that is stemmed from this situation right here with Halo going free to play. We're going to find out. We're going to find out more in the coming months as to what this means for Halo and what this means for next-gen games as a whole. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are some of the opinions that I have about this. The good, the bad, the ugly, and some questions. We've went over it all so far in this. I'm sure that more is going to pop up over time. I'll certainly cover that in future videos. Keep an eye out for the gameplay trailer video that I got coming out soon. I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining me on this video. And for anyone that watched it to the end, I love you very much. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notifications to let you know every time I upload a video. You all take care, and I'm out.